bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Good evening. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom at 6 o'clock. Some breaking news for you to start. Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer have held a phone call to discuss the war in Ukraine. The Prime Minister updated the President on the work by the Coalition of the Willing to support any peace deal and ensure a just and lasting end to the hostilities. He also updated Donald Trump on the appointment of the new British ambassador to the US, Dr. Christian Turner. The two leaders also wished each other a Merry Christmas. Trail hunting is set to be banned in England and Wales over fears it's being used to cover up the illegal killing of foxes. It's part of a new animal welfare strategy to be published tomorrow. The practice mimics traditional fox hunting, with dogs following a pre-laid animal scent while hunters follow the pack on horseback. Trail hunting is already illegal in Scotland, but it remains legal in Northern Ireland. More than 800 asylum seekers crossed the English Channel on small boats yesterday. It's the highest number to make the crossing on a single day in December. It brings the total number of arrivals so far this year to more than 41,000. Australians have held a minute's silence to remember the victims of a terror attack at Bondi Beach last week. 15 people were killed and more than 40 others injured when a father and son opened fire at a celebration of the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was heckled on arrival over the rise of anti-Semitic attacks over the past few months. He's announced to review international intelligence agencies to tackle extremism. The Electoral Commission says it's found no credible evidence that spending laws were broken by Nigel Farage during his general election campaign in Clacton last year. Labour called for an inquiry after a former member of his team alleged Reform UK had overspent the limit by around £9,000. Earlier this week, Essex Police also said it wouldn't investigate the MP because more than a year had passed since the alleged offence. And England's dismal Ashes campaign is over after defeat on the final day of the third test in Adelaide. England fell well short, being bowled out with 82 runs still left to chase. It means Australia now have an unassailable 3-0 lead to the 5-test series. It extends England's winless run down under to 18 matches.
Obviously sucks, very disappointing, and knowing now that we can't achieve what we set out to do here is obviously incredibly disappointing. And we've still got 2 games to go in the series. There's still a hell of a lot to play for us as individuals, us as a team. Obviously, walking out there and playing for England is, a good enough thing in itself.
You're up to date. I'll have more news for you at 7 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. At the end of another exceptionally busy political year, we'll be taking stock of 2025 and what the next 12 months might have in store. Brace yourselves. Labour Party Chair Anna Turley will join me. How does she assess her party's performance this year? And is the average worker in Britain really earning over £500 more per year since Labour won the general election? I'll also be speaking to the Deputy Chairman of the Conservatives and Shadow Policing Minister Matt Vickers. Was Kemi Babe not right to say that illegal migrants, not schoolboys, are to blame for the UK's misogyny problem? Reform UK Mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkyns, will be here. I'll be asking her about her party's plan to reform the system for special educational needs children. And with a new report out this week finding that the farming sector is bewildered and frightened after the government's changes to inheritance tax, farmer Andrew Ward will join me to discuss what challenges lie ahead for rural Britain. This is the final show of 2025, and as always, a packed 90 minutes of politics are to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. The chair of the Labour Party, Anna Turley, joins me now. Lovely to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm just going to start because we're a week on, unfortunately, from that horrific terror attack in Bondi. And to your enormous credit, Ms Turley, you were a fierce critic of Jeremy Corbyn when he was in charge of the Labour Party. You were an advocate for change. You certainly didn't like seeing anti-Semitism in your midst, and it was a very difficult period for you, sort of professionally. We've now got Gideon Falter of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism writing in The Telegraph as follows. Sir Keir Starmer vowed upon succeeding Jeremy Corbyn that he would tear anti-Semitism out by its roots, but only 6% of British Jews say that his government has been doing enough to protect us. 93% say it has not. That's a damning indictment of the government, isn't it?
Well, that's really heartbreaking to hear that, because I know how strongly the Prime Minister feels about it. I know how strongly many of us in the Labour Party feel too. So we are absolutely determined, as we've rooted out anti-Semitism from the Labour Party, to do so in the country too, because this country should absolutely be a safe space for Jews. I have many Jewish friends that I care deeply about who are as English and have always felt safe and as comfortable and as happy to practice their faith in this country as anyone else. And it's devastating to hear that they feel unsafe. And what happened in Australia is a really strong message to everyone around the country. But I am proud of what we have done to take on this issue. We've invested another £10 million in security to try and protect the Jewish community around the country. We're looking to bring in more education as well in schools to drive out anti-Semitism. Yeah. But of course, there's more to do, and I would be the first to say, we have to make this a priority. No one in this country should feel persecuted by their faith, their belief, and we want the Jewish community to feel safe in their places of worship and on their special holy days.
I mean, isn't the best protection really to stop marches where hate speech like "Globalise the Intifada" can be heard?
Well, I think that's really important. I know the police are cracking down on that because there is no place for hate speech. Of course, we're proud of free speech in this country, and I know GB News itself is always a proud advocate for free speech, and we share that view. But when free speech turns into hate crime, there's no place for that. No one should be able to produce hate and violence on the basis of someone's faith and their belief. No community should feel persecuted and unsafe by the words of another community. So it's really important that the police take this really, really seriously. And I know they're working very hard to tackle anti-Semitism wherever they find it.
Let's just turn to the mooted cancellation of yet more local elections. We understand that the government has written to 63 areas to suggest that they might want to postpone their elections. That could affect 4.6 million voters. This is an assault on democracy, isn't it? Is it because the Labour Party is running scared of reform that look likely to trounce you next May?
No, not at all. There are a huge amount of elections still taking place across the country, in Scotland, in Wales, all of London is out. We've got elections across the northeast and around the country. But what we are also doing, and this is really important, is we're undertaking the biggest transformation of local government in 50 years. So we are looking to produce more unitary councils. So that is a big sort of reconstruction of local government. And we've asked those councils, because they don't feel, many of them have said to us, they don't feel they have the capacity to run these elections within a few months when they're undertaking this big process of local government reform.
But the Electoral Commission has complained. It's slammed the idea. So if the Electoral Commission isn't in favour, why on earth is the government doing it?
Well, we need to ask those local councils themselves, because if they're telling us that they don't have the capacity to manage this process and this transition, I'm sure you wouldn't want us to have elections that weren't properly managed, that we couldn't ensure were democratically fair. So it's really important that we ask those local councils, are they ready for this in the process of big reorganisation? But there is a huge amount of elections, as I said, happening around the country. We're not afraid. We're taking these elections.
But not in the south. In the south, you are under much more threat than you may be in the north from reform particularly. Therefore, it cannot be coincidence that these mayoral elections have been postponed, and now there's the mooted postponement of 63 areas. I mean, that's extraordinary. Surely voters should just have their say.
Well, I'm not sure that that's true geographically, because we've got elections across the country. And as I said, all of London is out as well. And we're facing, opponents on all sides, and we're ready to set out our programme. We're proud of our record in government. We're proud of the change we're making. And with every single day that comes forward before the election, we know people will feel more and more in their pockets about the change we're delivering. And we're confident to go out and fight for every vote.
Well, Anna Turley, are you proud of your record in government so far? We've got the Prime Minister now with the lowest approval rating of any Prime Minister in history. He's down to -66. So you're proud of his record. The country isn't. The country would rather somebody else was Prime Minister right now.
Well, I think it takes time to bring about the kind of change that we wanted to see. And I completely understand the urgency that people have for that change. But we're bringing a huge amount of things forward. We've just said today that it's really clear that there's £500 more in people's pockets than there was at the election last year. We're bringing inflation down. We're bringing in our breakfast clubs, free school meals. We're lifting 500,000 children out of poverty. These are the changes that people wanted to see. And that's alongside a huge programme of public service reform. The NHS is getting back on its feet after 14 years of decline. We've delivered 5 million
the
more.
NHS is about to be clobbered, isn't it, by a doctor's strike, even though you've given them 29%. They now want another 26%. This wage inflation has largely been fuelled by the fact that the Labour government has given money to public sector workers. So public sector wages have increased by 7.6%. Private sector pay is at 3.6%. But what's the point in giving public sector workers more pay if they're still going to go on strike? 93,000 appointments lost to strikes.
When you're talking about the public sector workers, we're talking about the people here that are out, in social care, our bins, working throughout our country. These are people who are going to spend their money in the local businesses in our community. So it's right that we give them a pay rise. We're lifting the minimum wage as well. We're bringing down inflation. There's £150 off energy bills. We're freezing prescription charges. We're trying really hard to bring down the cost of living, because we know how challenging it is for people, whether you're in the public sector or the private sector. We know that times are hard, and we're doing everything we can to reduce that. The economy is stabilising after absolutely being ripped to shreds by the Conservatives, and we're seeing that, and we're seeing those.
Hang on, Anna Turley. Hang on. You're talking about putting more money in people's pockets. The last budget delivered record tax hikes. We had this absolute fallacy that you weren't taxing working people more. Of course you are. You're taxing working people to the tune of 26 billion. What's the point in wages going up if the freezing of tax thresholds for an extra 3 years fiscally drags medium income workers into higher tax rate bands? If you use any tax calculator online, you're actually going to be worse off because you're paying more tax. So that just wipes out any wage growth.
Well, I mean, that's freezing of the threshold is a continuation of the Conservative policy that we inherited, but the priority is about what people can see and feel in their pockets. And as I said, inflation is falling. We've had 6 cuts in interest rates. That will help people's mortgages. So children are going to school now with breakfast clubs. They're getting free school meals. We're lifting the minimum wage. These are things that people will start to feel in their pockets and start to see in the communities around them. And that's alongside a huge programme of public service reform. We've got to invest in the NHS. We've got to get public services back on their feet. And after years of austerity, we refuse to go back to bringing our public services down. We're investing in them because that supports...
You call it austerity, others would call it efficiency. The trouble is with ploughing all of this money into the NHS, for instance, is it's still less productive now than it was before COVID. You can't possibly tell me that wages going up haven't been wiped out by tax rises. People are paying more tax, aren't they, after the last budget? We've had 40 billion in tax rises in the last budget, and then the most recent budget, another 26 billion. So working people are being taxed more. You can't deny that.
Look, we've tried to bring fairness to the tax system. So we've looked at where we can bring down, for example, with private school VAT thresholds, with closing the non-dom loophole. We're making sure that the hardest falls on those who can afford to pay the most. So the reality is we're not going to go back to austerity. That is the choice that faces any government that was in at the moment. And we know that the Conservatives, we know that Reform would continue to cut investment in services. And you might just say, well, that's just efficiencies. But it's not efficiencies when you look at the damage that 14 years of austerity has done to communities like mine. And we know that people's streets, their high streets, their local economies have been decimated. Austerity has hammered people in their pockets.
Anna Turley, we need to leave it there because I've been told to wrap up, but have a very Merry Christmas and thank you for joining me. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the Deputy Chairman of the Conservatives, Matt Vickers, who will join me as we hear from Mark White that 800 small boats migrants have arrived yesterday alone.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, you're absolutely right. Spot on. I couldn't help feeling that perhaps it was actually just a joke, and they were going to come back in 2 years' time and say, we took you all in. It was, in fact, a joke. Now we're going to produce something more serious, because it is absolutely hilarious and ridiculous. Commercial suicide, I described it as.
Well, the individual behind it is no more. What would you like to see from the brand? Presumably not people with asymmetric haircuts in pink dresses with sledgehammers doing precisely zero to do with cars.
Well, again, absolutely, you're spot on. I mean, it's just totally unrelated to cars at all. It wasn't even a car in the advert. Jaguar was built on style, and that brought passion for cars. That's what made them different. I remember many years ago, a Jaguar executive in the States saying to me, people say, I like my Mercedes, but I love my Jaguar. It's all about passion. Style engendered that. That's what we've got to have. We need to see a proper, more traditional, stylish, real Jaguar that can build on the brand and heritage of the past.
OK, Philip Porter, I'm going to put you on the spot now. If you're in charge of the next Jaguar advert, what would it look like?
As diametrically opposite and different as it possibly could be from what they produced. I suppose, I mean, I live a little in the past, I admit, although I also think I'm hopefully realistic about the current situation and everything, the present. But I'd like to see the heritage shown. Jaguar were not afraid to talk in the past about their heritage, the Le Mans wins back in the 50s, the E-Type in the 60s. This is what added excitement and luster to the brand.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And joining me now is the Deputy Chairman of the Conservatives, Matt Vickers, also the Tory MP for Stockton West. Lovely to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Let's just lead into what Anna Turley was saying there about the cancelled elections, or the mooted cancelled elections. We had those mayoral races postponed. There's now talk that the government has consulted with 63 councils, asking them whether they want to go ahead. Ms Turley there saying, oh, it's because of the reorganisation and devolution and they're not ready and all the rest of it. Reform say this is just about stopping them from winning these local bouts. What are the Conservatives saying about it? Because I had a bit of a spat with Chris Bryant, the Labour MP, on X last week. He was saying, oh, the Conservatives have requested this. Have you?
Not at all. I think there's two councils, thousands of councils across the country, two councils opposed. The reality is we entirely oppose this. It is ridiculous. It is denying people their democratic right. But you can understand why Labour are doing this. If you had the record that this Labour government has, you probably wouldn't want to go to the polls. It's putting people out of work, inflation up, spending out of all control, taxes out of all control. This government is a disaster and people are feeling the pain as a result of it. All these broken promises, whether it's our pensioners, whether it's our farmers, whether it's those small business people, they're not going to be voting for this Labour Party.
Well, they might not be voting for you either. I mean, it's
We're going to go out there and make our pitch.
You've got to be careful what you wish for. Do you definitely want these local elections to take place?
We do. We've selected
if Nigel
candidates.
Farage cleans the board.
We've selected cracking candidates. We're ready to go out there and make our pitch to the British people. There's a big dividing line in politics at the moment. One is the Conservatives, who are fiscally responsible, who are going to reduce that welfare bill, who would keep that two-child cap in place and be on the side of people who work hard and do the right thing. The other lot want to spend more on benefits. They want to remove that two-child cap.
Well, they're
not there about supporting the people who create the jobs and do the business.
To balance that out, they're saying that they would only give that, they would only remove it in the case of British citizens where both parents are working, and that's because we've got a population problem in this country. The birth rate's at an all-time low, and something needs to be done
into the last
to
election.
encourage families.
They went into the last election with £140 billion of unfunded spending
Which they've abandoned.
The reality is that if people are looking at what's happening to the economy now, they're looking at 21% more people unemployed, out of work. That is horrific. People going into Christmas this year without the security of a pay packet, unable to provide for their families. All the mental health consequences that come with being out of work, sat at home, unable to fulfil your aspirations and ambitions. The choices at the next election will be the Conservatives on the side of people who work hard and do the right thing, who will reduce welfare spending, and the other lot who are going to carry on spending ever more, nationalising anything that moves.
Matt Vickers, have the good people of Stockton West forgiven you yet? Because they were disappointed to hear you bang on about bringing taxes down when they went up and bringing immigration down when it went up.
The good people of Stockton West have a lot of sense. They sent me back to Parliament.
Well,
so they obviously have a lot of sense. No, the reality
you're in the
is,
minority there, let's be honest.
We had a really tough general election. We've come away, we've learnt the message, we've listened to the British people. Kemi is out there making that pitch. But it's the tale as time. Every Labour government that comes into office spends too much money, busts our economy, and we come in to pick up the pieces.
But you've still got a few kind of closet Liberal Democrats in your midst, haven't you? This is the criticism made of the Conservatives, that there are too many lefties within your party who are saying, oh, we can't leave the ECHR because it's a breach of international law. And if you carry on with that sentiment, then unfortunately you're not going to triumph at the polls either in May or whenever the next general election is.
Well, that's simply not the case, because actually it's our confirmed position. We would leave the ECHR.
Well, would people like Simon Hoare and Caroline
It's
Noakes?
party policy. We've signed up to this.
What
it's agreed.
To them? So
and we didn't do it on the back of
the yellows dressed in blue in your party, and there are several of them. We've seen them waging Brexit wars and all the rest of it. What's going to happen to them come the next general election? Is Kemi Babe not going to boot them out?
We're not a one-man band who goes around tweeting policies. We are a team of people from across the mix who've come together, looked at that policy on ECHR, but we didn't just tweet about or do a press release. We actually have a considered position. We've had the greatest legal minds in the country who've put together a position. Well, we are.
Your broad churchism is actually
we are. You look at those amendments we
because,
laid.
you know, people have asked, are you all actually practising the same religion? So you're telling me that wet Tories are going to be booted out, are they?
This Conservative Party, under Kemi's leadership, will leave the ECHR. And more than leaving the ECHR, more than taking back control of our borders, we're going to deliver on the economy as well, get people's taxes down, get people back into work, and drive down that completely unfair benefits bill that Reform and Labour are happy to see spew out of all control.
Let's hear how tough-talking you might be on illegal immigration. We had Kemi Badenoch in the week respond to that government policy of teaching boys in school about misogyny, seemed to have been influenced by adolescence, the Netflix drama and all the rest of it. She said, and I follow, She said, as I quote, as follows: "They need to do the right thing, put police officers on the street, stop people who come from cultures that don't respect women coming into our country." Now, unfortunately, the problem is that the Conservative government, over the course of 14 years, let people come into the country from cultures that don't respect women.
The people that we were going to send to Rwanda are now in Redcar, Richmond and Romford. The reality is we need to get control of the borders. Kemi's put forward a proper plan, a considered plan on leaving the ECHR and how we take back control of those borders. But when it comes to that issue, actually, we have huge numbers of people arriving in this country who do not think that women should enjoy the same rights as men. That is wrong. That is a big part of the problem that we have when it comes to violence against women and girls. And actually, when you look at the stats on crime, Eritreans and Albanians aren't twice as likely to commit a sexual offence as a British citizen.
Right.
They're 20 times as likely. That is a big part of any plan that we put forward.
OK, so what are you going to say then? Because over in America, we've seen Donald Trump ban different countries from sending people to the UK, either sending people to the US, either legally or illegally. So what the Conservatives going to turn around and do? Say, no, we don't want any Eritreans, we don't want any Afghans who, according to Nigel Farage, are 22 times more likely to commit a sex crime against a woman. Are you going to have bans on countries? Are you going to be that tough, Matt Vickers?
What we're going to do is we're going to have if you arrive in this country illegally, the Conservative position is no ifs, no buts. You're going home, and if you can't go home, you're going to go to a safe third country. That is our position. If you break in, if you come illegally, we'll have all sorts of things, as we already do, that we can make decisions around who can and can't come, and that's in the gift of government.
A young man can seek asylum in the UK from Afghanistan and still be found guilty, as we've witnessed in recent times in Leamington Spa and all the rest of it, of a sex crime.
Well, we'll make the decision.
So why don't you just ban some countries from sending anyone, legally or illegally?
We're going to ban you from breaking into the country. We're then going to have the legal system that looks at what you've done, who you are and what you're about, and make the decision about who can and can't come.
Do you understand?
That might be certain countries, it might be certain skill sets.
Yeah, but do you get my point? She's saying she wants to stop people who come from cultures that don't respect women. You do appreciate that under the Conservatives, people came here legally, not just illegally, from cultures that might not respect women.
That's why we have a robust plan. That's why we have it. Well, not on my watch. Kemi wasn't the leader. I wasn't a minister.
Well, Kemi was in government under the last Tory government, wasn't she? She was a minister in the last Tory government.
We have a plan that will deliver secure borders for this country. It involves leaving the ECHR. It involves putting a legal cap on the number of people who turn up in this country. It involves putting Parliament, the people you elect, back in charge of deciding who comes and who can or cannot stay. You see, Chicken Nugget, the ridiculous situation where our legal system is out of control. We've decided properly, in a considered manner, to leave the ECHR and take back control of our borders.
Should Kemi Badenoch have a little reshuffle in the new year and maybe bring Robert Jenrick closer?
I think
give him a promotion, because apparently people at Reform want him to go and cross the floor to them.
Well, I think Robert Jenrick is doing a fantastic job in the brief that he's in.
Well, shouldn't he have a more significant brief, like Shadow Chancellor?
Well, I think it is a significant brief. I think he is a huge part of the team
that
Kemi's
wasn't
got
put on
there.
the front of the brochure for the Tory party conference, was he?
I don't know where he was when you took these pictures for the front of the brochure.
Somebody selected a photograph without Robert Jenrick, so...
Well, I'm a big fan of Robert. Robert's a big fan of Kemi. He thinks she's the woman who's going to do the business and get us back into power.
Well, he was her arch-rival, but shouldn't he be promoted in order to keep him in the blue tent rather than him defecting to the turquoise one?
He is doing a great job. He's right behind Kemi. Boris is right behind Kemi. I'm right behind Kemi.
All right.
She's getting on with the business. People are now starting to pay attention and see what Kemi's about and what the Conservatives are going to be offering at the next general election.
What do we think about Rachel Reeves being banned from her local pub? Matt, you support this, presumably, do you? The Chancellor has let down the hospitality industry and therefore should be persona non grata at the March in Pudsey.
So sometimes I think when people are banned from things because of their politics, it's a bit naff. But actually, in real terms, do you know what this woman is doing to the hospitality trade in this country? 111,000 people have lost their jobs since this government came to power and slammed them all with that tax, that jobs tax. Now she's come back for more. People are seeing their business rates treble.
You're happy for the Chancellor to be told there's no room at the Marsh Inn?
2 pubs a day are closing.
For her to have an Aperol Spritz.
I think it's what she's doing to the hospitality business is appalling. And how those backbench MPs can walk through a lobby and vote for that, I do not know. They should get themselves down to the pub. They should see these people who work day and night to create jobs. And often these jobs are the first job a young person gets. It's them who's missing out because of what this government's doing.
Well, the Labour Party are saying today, we're brilliant because we have given people a £500 wage hike.
They put thousands of 21% more people aren't in work. It's great having a pay rise in a living wage. if you haven't got a job, it's not much use to you.
All right, Matt Vickers, thank you very much indeed for coming in for this festively fun episode of the Camilla Tominey Show, and good luck returning to Stockton West for Christmas. Thank you. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the reformed UK Mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkyns. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy but wet end to the weekend, but as we go through into Christmas week, things will still remain cloudy, but it will start to turn a little bit colder as we head towards the big day. Now, out there at the moment, we have this low pressure system out towards the southwest, which is bringing this southeasterly breeze across the UK, and that occlusion that is draped across the central swathe, and it is bringing some outbreaks of some rain, which can be pretty heavy, especially across northern England and the Pennines, and some heavy showers across the southwest, so Devon and Cornwall as well by the early hours of the morning. It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. There are some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now, it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest, and across the eastern coast of the UK there. And maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now, Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here. Maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards the big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Reform UK Mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkyns, joins me now. Lovely to see you this morning, Dame Andrea. Good
morning,
look at your
Camilla.
Christmas tree. I'm loving how festive that looks in the background. I shall have to
I do go
send
over
you...
the top with it, I'm afraid.
Well, if you can't go over the top with the Christmas tree, what can you do? I need to send you a GB News bauble.
That'd be good.
Let's get into this announcement that Richard Tice made in the week. Now, he courted some controversy for suggesting that children were being overdiagnosed with SEND conditions, and actually wrote a piece for the Telegraph subsequently saying that he'd received death threats and some of the abuse he had faced was worse than during the Brexit years.
Yeah.
He then sort of gave this press conference in the week where he half apologised, said, the first word I want to say is sorry. 4 weeks ago, when I gave a press conference, I offended another number of people when talking about SEND. What's he apologising for? Do you agree with him that children are being overdiagnosed and parents are gaming the system or not?
No, I mean, look, I've had lots of conversations with Richard. He apologised for his comments, and he is very passionate about this. He knows my son Clifford very well, who's neurodiverse, and he is fantastic with him. Now, what do I think? I think that the system is not working. I mean, I'll give an example, Camilla. Clifford's school wanted him to have an autism test, and they do that test on Zoom. And, you know, they literally, then you have a longer consultation with the parent than you do with the child. And
yes.
And then they do a questionnaire with the school. And I think it needs to be back to face-to-face. I think they need to be in the school environment, observing him in the school environment, a child for an assessment, then observing them at home. But how can you observe somebody via Zoom when they're darting about all over the place playing?
No.
Exactly. So the system needs changing, and I'm very proud to actually, I can tell you what I'm doing with the working group shortly, but no, it's a right way. We do need to look into assessments and make sure these children are not left behind.
But what do we think has happened here? Because there has been this explosion in diagnosis, not just of conditions like ADHD and ADD, but also, as you say, autism. Now, we appreciate in the case of the latter, it's a spectrum disorder, so you're going to have very severe cases of non-verbal children not being able to be mainstream schooled, all the way to those suffering from mild autism. Is it the case that there is this explosion in diagnosis because people are just more aware of their children potentially suffering from these conditions? Or is there an aspect of some parents gaming the system?
Look, I think it's all of the above, actually, Camilla. No doubt, especially with this online diagnosis, I don't think that works. So there's going to be some misdiagnosis then. You're always going to get some who are gaming the system. That happens in any type of benefits, doesn't it? But the majority of parents who I speak to, they've been let down by the system. I mean, I'll give an example. I met with the Lincolnshire Autism Society on Friday, Camilla, and the chap was telling me of one of the ladies who is helping. Her son, first 2 weeks at school, age 5, he was frightened, hidden under the desk. The teacher tried to pull him out. Remember, it's only his second week at school, age 5. And so he pushed his legs out and it ended up hitting her in the face. And he's banned from any school now. So I think things could be handled a little bit differently. No doubt teachers also have lots of stress in their role, but I don't think a homogenized way of teaching works for all children. And so I think that we've got to look at the way that we teach as well. And I mean, if I give an example of what I'm going to do with this working group, as I said, I'm very passionate about this, Camilla. Already, I've got on board child psychologists. I've got people in the health profession. I've got a head teacher of a SEND specialist school. I've got a head teacher from a mainstream school. I've got counsellors who it's their portfolio. I've got parents of autism. As I said, I'm engaging with the autistic charities as well. I'm going to have a two-pronged approach. It's going to be qualitative and quantitative research. We're going to have focus groups. We're going to do a massive questionnaire, which we put out to the public to gather this data and find out what's broken, what's not working, from the health professionals through to the teachers, through to the parents. And finally, let's have this conversation.
OK, but when it comes to, I think something has changed here when it comes to the correlation between a diagnosis of a either neurodiverse symptoms or other symptoms, okay? And we need to be careful here. Neurodiverse conditions like ADHD shouldn't necessarily be muddled up with, say, for instance, mental health conditions like mild anxiety. What's changed, and let me just cite an example familiarly. Back in the 1980s, my brother was diagnosed with dyslexia. Now, he needed some extra time at school, he needed a bit of help and guidance, he needed some extra tuition. Under no circumstances back then would we, for instance, have considered claiming benefits for that condition. Equally, I've got immediate and personal knowledge of people with ADHD within my immediate family, OK? So I'm familiar with that. Again, how has it come to pass that people with these conditions are claiming benefits for them, or transport for school, or motability cars? Where do you stand on the issue of the claiming of benefits for some of these neurodiverse conditions?
Look, it's and look, we're virtually bankrupt as a country under Labour, aren't we? So something has got to change. Now, I'm not going to say how that's going to change until we've done the research. That I can't preempt things, but it's not working as it is. Look, I'm neurodiverse. My son is. I went to a mainstream school. My son goes to a mainstream school. And I think that's right, because you're right, there's different levels. There's also some children out there who really struggle and would find it difficult to be in a mainstream school. So we've got to get the balance right. But yeah, we don't want people gaming the system, but equally, we don't want people whose children are being let down. I mean, if I can give some examples from the parents I've spoken to recently, you know, we're talking now teenage-age children who they've been at a school 2 hours a week. The education system's let them down. They have no qualifications. But when you meet these children, they're really bright. And it seems like the system's let them down. And what chance are we giving them in life? You know, just because people are neurodiverse and think differently doesn't mean that they haven't got anything to contribute. They clearly have.
So is the end game of this panel and this working group that you get more children into school?
I'd like to see more children into school, a more diverse way of teaching, because you find that look, people learn kinesthetically, visually, auditory. They call it blended learning, but I'd like to see far more of that in schools personally. And especially for neurodiverse children, they're very kinesthetic, they like doing, but also actually seeing what stars these children can be. I mean, Clifford's amazing at technology and at coding. I'm doing private lessons on that for him because his is amazing at all the AI type stuff. So there's always something what a child can do. And I think it's about enhancing that, grabbing hold of that to give that child a chance and a future in life. Too many have been written off by society, that's what I think.
Fair enough. Well, just off the topic of SEND, just for a minute, as I've got you, Dame Andrea, these proposed cancellations to yet more elections, we're hearing about the government having discussions with 63 different areas. Spoke to Anna Turley earlier, the deputy chair of the Labour Party, making the point that this was because of a reorganisation and devolution, and we can't have democracy if the elections wouldn't be fair. Is that a fair argument, or do you think this is about trying to prevent reform from gaining seats next May?
I mean, it's a load of rubbish, that argument, Camilla, because if you think Lincolnshire's going through local government reorganisation and I got elected in May. If that was the case, why did they go ahead with our election in May? And we're preparing for it. Whatever the outcome is, I'm consulting with the different councils to see which proposal they want for reorganisation, then formulated my own view on which one I'll back. So it's a load of rubbish. This is because they fear reform. But I'm also disappointed that Kemi hasn't come out and said that she believes in democracy. Because,
well, to be fair, we just had Matt Vickers on. Matt Vickers said this was an absolute aberration and that Conservatives were fighting.
You should tell them.
Fair, well, I said to him, well, that's quite a brave... Well, I was going to say, that's quite a brave stance from the Tories because they're likely to do less well than you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I've got a Conservative-controlled North East Lincolnshire Council. We'll find out in January whether they decide to cancel it. We've also got a Labour-controlled City of Lincoln. So let's see what they do. Let's see if they're Democrats or they try to subvert democracy for their own skin.
All right, Dame Andrea Jenkyns, thank you for your time. Good luck with your SEND project. Yeah. And Merry Christmas to Clifford too, obviously.
Thank you.
Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the farmer, Andrew Ward. He's going to discuss why the sector is feeling bewildered and frightened, according to a report by Minette Batters, who used to be at the head of the National Farmers Union. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest winter sun forecast. If you're travelling towards the Mediterranean on the lead up of Christmas, it's going to be fairly unsettled for a lot of the area. Some bands of rain really moving eastwards across the Med. Some heavy rain for a time for the Balearics especially, but after a fairly stormy spell down towards the Canaries and Madeira, something a little bit more settled developing here with some spells of sunshine and temperatures for Canaries reaching the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight. Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here at GB News,
Britain's news channel.
News channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. We've been asking you in today's You Decide poll, who would be a better Chancellor, Rachel Reeves or Ed Miliband? 64% of you say Rachel Reeves, while 36% of you say Ed Miliband, which is not really a ringing endorsement of the Environment Secretary, is it? So that's the Your Decide poll for today. Let's move on to other environmental matters with farmer Andrew Ward, who joins me now from Lincolnshire. You came down on the train this morning, and I thought, goodness me, that's an early start. Not for a farmer, Andrew.
No,
you
that's
love
right.
getting up at the crack of dawn.
Love it. But at the minute, it's quite dark when you get up.
Well,
but it's only an hour and 20 minutes from Lincolnshire.
Well, I tell you what is dark, and that's the future for farmers. We've had Minette Batters, who used to be president of the National Farming Union. She's come out with a report, and I just thought these two words really summed it up, that farmers describe themselves as being bewildered and frightened with some of the measures that the Labour government has brought in. Just talk us through where we're at the moment, because you've had your protests. I've seen you and your tractors, obviously, outside Parliament and all the rest of it. Not making any headway here, though, unfortunately.
No, we're not making any headway with the government in the fact that they're not changing any policies. But I think we have made headway and highlighted to the government that we will not lay down and be pushed around. But also the public have really understood now what's going on with food production and farming. So I think that has been the big win for what we've been doing with these protests.
How is food production? How in jeopardy is it moving forward if we have lots of family farms having to basically give up because of these inheritance tax changes?
It's a real big risk, because the problem we've got is it's not profitable. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. The people that say pay your tax, they don't understand that we are making virtually no profit from producing food which keep people alive. Just to give you an example, in 2012, I was selling feed wheat for £200 a tonne. Today, I'm selling it for 160.
Yeah.
So £40 a tonne less, but all our input costs have gone up. We cannot carry on absorbing all these costs, and the government keep hitting us with all these extra things they're doing. Next year, we've got a fertiliser tax coming on at about £50, £60 a tonne. They're going to charge us.
What's the justification for that?
Well, to do with the environment and making things greener and cleaner and safer. And it's all these net zero things that are just hammering everybody, not just the agricultural industry, but industries in general.
No wonder then there was a look of dread in your eyes as we polled our audience as to whether Ed Miliband might make a better Chancellor. What's your analysis of Rachel Reeves right now? I mean, how much worse were things made for you with the budget? I just merely ask that because I would imagine that farmers do employ people on minimum wage, and that's gone up. Obviously, you're not affected by the business rates thing, but you are affected by the IHT, and you got clobbered with the national insurance hike back in the first budget. So have things got worse since the autumn?
Well, they have, and you mentioned minimum wage. A lot of farmers themselves are on minimum wage. You know, we're not earning big money, and this is the problem we've got, is that the government keeps saying that they're looking after the working person. They're not. They're making it more difficult for the working person. And the last budget, again, made things more difficult than the first budget did.
But is there a disconnect here? And actually, Batters points it out in her report. There seems to be a lack of knowledge in the current Cabinet of Rural Affairs. The working man and woman, I think they think that workers are people who worked in Keir Starmer's father's factory or whatever. Actually, there are a lot of working class people working in the countryside, working in rural pursuits.
Yes, absolutely.
Are being clobbered just as much as anyone, with tax thresholds being frozen and all the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the problem we've got, is that he says he's protecting working people, yet surely farmers are working people, because we work more hours than most people do and feed the nation and keep people alive. And the age-old saying you need a farmer 3 times a day, and you do, and you can't say that for many other industries.
Well, especially at Christmas. Stephen Dixon on earlier, when we did the handover, was talking about, or I think it might have been Penny Smith actually, how cheap she thought the sprouts and the vegetables were in the supermarket. Now, just tell me about that with regard to food production, because admittedly, went to the supermarket yesterday, veg does still seem to be reasonable despite the fact that inflation is high on our shelves. How is that squeezing the farmer as we prepare to make our Christmas dinner on Thursday? The
problem we've got is that these supermarkets keep lowering the price of all these produce, vegetables, and they're 8p at the minute. I've seen Aldi are doing things, I think they're down to 5p at the minute for some vegetables. But the problem is, all that's doing is it gets the public into the supermarket, so they'll buy other items that are a lot more expensive. But that is just hoodwinking the public to say that, OK, if I can buy food at that price, then that's what it costs the farmer to grow, when invariably it will cost 3 or 4 or 5 times that amount to grow those crops. And so it's deceiving the public by having these prices so low.
What's your message to the Chancellor? Because, I mean, the government is arguing that these changes are necessary and that there are black holes in the finances and all the rest of it. That's how they're justifying what they're doing. They also, and I think she has said in the past, that they are listening to farmers. Are they? What's your message?
If they were listening to farmers, they wouldn't be doing their utmost to ruin the industry and make the industry unprofitable. And this is the issue that we've got at the moment, that they're not listening at all. And I was at a meeting the other day, and the farmers aren't part of the discussion in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
What do you mean? I mean, that sounds ludicrous.
Well, it does. But when you're looking at Natural England, you've got an organisation there that looks after the environment and we have to answer to. And yet when they're looking at new policies, they don't involve farmers at the first 2 or 3 hurdles. And so when you start to look at the Batters report that we've just come out, and we've got the Secretary of State said only the other day after the report came out, we need to start working with the farmers now. We're going to start talking. We're going to have this committee that we're going to form. It's too late for that. This should have been done ages ago. And if they're going to work with farmers, then they should have done it before the budget, not after the budget, when they've caused us more damage.
I mean, just finally, we're running out of time, Andrew, but are you saying you just want to scrap this IHT policy completely or raise the threshold of it?
Well, for a start, IHT should not be payable by anybody, not just farmers. No business should pay IHT. So we're not just sort of working on the side of farmers. Yes, scrap it would be the best thing, obviously, but if they can't scrap it and they want to get some income coming in, then raise the threshold so it does protect the true family farm. But just before we go, Camilla, I think it's worth pointing out that the public, the money, 560 million, went abroad to help foreign farmers.
Good point. And domestic farmers have suffered. Andrew Ward, we need to leave it there. I need to wrap up for Christmas. Have a wonderful day on Thursday, and I shall see you in the new year.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy but wet end to the weekend, but as we go through into Christmas week, things will still remain cloudy, but it will start to turn a little bit colder as we head towards the big day. Now, out there at the moment, we have this low pressure system out towards the southwest, which is bringing this southeasterly breeze across the UK, and that occlusion that is draped across the central swathe, and it is bringing some outbreaks of some rain, which can be pretty heavy, especially across northern England and the Pennines, and some heavy showers across the southwest, so Devon and Cornwall as well by the early hours of the morning. It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. Do have some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now, it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest, and across the eastern coast of the UK there. And maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now, Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here. Maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards the big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, the curse of DEI as they're slowly being squeezed out of industries like TV, film and media and in offices across the world. We'll be debating Are Young White Millennial Men the Lost Generation? Award-winning author Kate Clancy, one of the first victims of cancel culture in 2021, joins me to discuss her experience and her fight back. New details have been revealed on Labour's new Islamophobia definition, and it's bad news for free speech. A week on from the massacre in Bondi Beach, are police around the world doing enough to protect Jews?
We welcome as a government the clarity that the Supreme Court have delivered, and that sex is determined by biological sex.
Is Labour working for or against women? Bridget Phillipson, Women and Equality Secretary, blocks trans rules protecting safe spaces for women. Plus, is Father Christmas too white? We'll have that answer and many others to, including, by the way, is Grinch transphobic? And we'll have two comedians in the studio answering some crazy culture developments from a live studio audience. But first, the news with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you. Good evening. Your top stories at 7:01. Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer have held a phone call to discuss the war in Ukraine and the ongoing humanitarian situation in Gaza. The Prime Minister updated the President on work by the coalition